The legends of Memphis Wrestling return to Jackson, Saturday, September 21st at the Picture Perfect Event Center. It will be a night to remember, featuring the stars you watched every Saturday morning on TV. Be there for the FanFest meet and greet at 3:30 and the official Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony at 7 p.m. featuring Jerry the King Lawler, Superstar Bill Dundee, the Boogie Woogie Man, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Dangerous Doug Gilbert, Wildfire Tommy Rich, the Rock and Roll Express, PG-13, Downtown Bruno, the Birdman Coco Beware, Dr. Tom Pritchard, the Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony, Nightmare Danny Davis, Terry Golden, Sir Mo, the Spellbinder, Tony Falk, Carl Fergie, Jerry Calhoun, Michael St. John, and more. Plus a special reunion of the stars from TV5 Power Pro Wrestling and KAW. The legends of Memphis Wrestling return to Jackson, Saturday, September 21st at the Picture Perfect Event Center. Sponsored by Budweiser, Pro Shingle, Thomas Media, Slide and Ride Rodeo, and WBBJ TV. Tickets are on sale now. Go to Eventbrite and search Official Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and as always, it is my pleasure to introduce the man you came to hear, Mr. Doug Gilbert.
Man, hey, Gene. Hey, I hope everybody out there is doing well. And as people have thought before, they would thought you would never see Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Randy Hales in the same room or in the same building. But actually, Gene, what have we got for today?
Well, right here with us, we are joined by the man himself, Mr. Randy Hales. Welcome to the show, Randy. It's episode number 6, and we have got Mr. Randy Hales in the house.
Well, I hate to start this sucker by griping, and I'm not griping at you, Doug, but what number did he just say? That I'm number 6? That means that he chose 5 people over me so far.
No, that means you're the first person, right, Gene?
You were the very. I was about to get to that. I was going to let you go off on me first, but I was going to point out for 5 episodes, it's just been me and Doug having conversations here, and the first guy who we felt compelled to have as our very special guest, the first person to break that mold, is Randy Hales. So, see, Randy.
Now, what about the? I'm sorry, Randy Bentley. Now, what about that? You're the first guest that's ever been on this podcast.
I feel better about the whole situation. I just hope Gene doesn't edit the good stuff off.
Hey, listen. He won't. I think we're going to let you talk about what you want to talk about today. But and I think you've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and there's a lot of stuff as far as show wise and different things that me and you can talk about. That's great stuff. But I think we all know what you want to talk about, and Gene's got some things that he wants us to talk about. And I think it'll be a great show. And like I always say, I appreciate everybody listening to us.
Hey, I want to start, if I could, Gene, messing to your job as a moderator of this thing. I want to ask Doug this question. I want to test Doug's memory, and I think he will get this right. Tell our listeners here on this show today, Dangerous Conversations, the great show it is, and this is a scoop. I want you to tell everybody the very first time me and you were in the car together, where we went and who we went to visit.
We went to visit my brother. And it wasn't just me and you in the car, was it? It was me and you and my brother's girlfriend.
Debbie,
yeah, right. Debbie Thomas. And we went and we was going to.
It was Arkansas.
Well, I was going to say it was Arkansas, but I don't want to say Little Rock. Where was it? Which town was it, Randy, in Arkansas?
Was it Monticello?
I think you're probably right. I think it was Monticello, but I wasn't but 10. What was I, 10?
You were 10 years old.
That sounds about right. But yeah, me and Debbie, I rode with Debbie and we met you and we went up there to see my brother.
and it was a Leroy McGirt
Yeah, Leroy
promotion, and
McGirt show.
Skandar Akbar was the booker, right?
Yes, sir.
How about that for a scoop? The very first time we ever rode in the car together, and we
That's-
all behaved, believe it
Yeah.
or not.
And we sure did.
Nice. And here we are back here all these years later. What year would you think that would have been, Randy?
Doug, help me with that.
It'd been 46 years ago.
46 years ago.
Well, or just say 45 years ago.
So I graduated high school in 1980. So I was driving then. When were you born? Can we say that?
Myself?
Yes.
Yeah, 12/29/69.
69. Okay. All right. It's been a long time ago.
So 79-ish, early 80s.
Yeah.
Right through there.
So I'd have been about 3.
Are you calling?
I'm not as much younger as everybody assumes I am.
Hey, you was getting your podcast stuff set up then, wasn't you?
I was recording with a tape recorder at that point, talking about wrestling.
There you go.
And who would have thought that I'd be sitting here with Randy Hales and Doug Gilbert on a podcast in 2024? Man, life is something.
Well, now there's probably nobody or very few people that thought you, not because it's you, but thought anybody would be sitting here with me and Randy Hales on a podcast together.
Absolutely.
I've been working for 2 years, maybe 5 years, trying to get you on my show. But this is fine. Gene does a good job, so I'm thrilled to death. And maybe I'll sneak you in sometime soon.
Oh, you'll get me in there for sure.
I feel like quite the salesman. There's not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't tell me, I've been trying to get Doug Gilbert to do my podcast for 10 years and he wouldn't do it. How the hell did you get him to do a weekly podcast? I was like, well, you didn't know how to ask, apparently. I don't know what to tell you. But Randy, I know you've got some big stuff coming up that we want to talk about, and we're seeing it on social media. You're talking about it each week on your podcast, which I know we'll plug them at the end, but let's go ahead right now and tell everybody, tell us a little bit about the shows that you do each week.
Right now, I am doing the Monday show and calling it the Randy Hales Show because usually we do the Power Pro Wrestling Watch Along on Monday, but we're trying to sell tickets, so we're doing that on Monday. And Tuesday, I'm joined by two guys from Alabama, Michael St. John, who's going into the Hall of Fame in the announcer ring, and a sponsor of the show, Pat Trammell from Birmingham, Alabama, big wrestling fans. So the best way to catch those shows is go to my YouTube channel, just the Randy Hales YouTube channel. It's simple to find.
So that's fun. As I sit here in Gadsden, Alabama, those guys are an hour from me in either direction. So they're closer to me than they are to you, and they're doing that show with you every week. So that's pretty fun.
I think it's pretty ironic talking about what's coming up September the 21st. I think it's ironic. So many times I spent, Doug, you know this, Eddie Marlin used to run Jackson a lot, and certainly every Thanksgiving. And I spent he opened the box office at noon on Thanksgiving Day, but he said, Jerry wants me to be at the Thanksgiving meal. So he conned me into going to Jackson and opening up the box office. So I spent many of Thanksgiving. You and your dad, I should have dropped in at your house, or you should have brought me a plate, man.
Hey, you sure could have dropped in. And but anyway, Randy can say Eddie conned him into anything, but Randy loved Eddie Marlin like another father. And since he was a kid. And I mean, Eddie Marlin and my dad have been around Randy Hales about his whole life.
I think
it's funny you mentioned that.
I think it's ironic that after all these years, my return to promoting the wrestling program is in your backyard in Jackson, Tennessee. So how do you feel about a big event coming to Jackson?
Oh, I think it's really cool. And like I said, it's the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And it's Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, but it's celebrating the feud of Lawler and Dundee. And I mean, Randy has got some great guys, Gene, in which you and him both know the names, in which I'll let y'all go over them when I get done talking here. And but anyway, man, I love it being in Jackson, and I love knowing when Randy was just talking earlier. I didn't want to cut him off for saying anything, but he was talking about being in Jackson so much. And I mean, the Oman Arena, we used to just call it the Jackson Coliseum in those days and everything, because it was just like a smaller version of the Mid-South Coliseum, and it's still there. Just the school system owns it now, and they're supposed to be doing a whole lot of work on it and getting it back up to code and everything. It'd be great one time to get back in there and do one more show in there. But like I said, it's just a miniature Mid-South Coliseum. If you pull to the outside of it, it looks exactly like it. It's just about what would we say, Randy, 12,000 seats less probably?
I wouldn't say it's that much left. Maybe 4,000 or 5,000 less.
Is that, what would you say it would hold? 10? The Coliseum would hold what? 12?
11,500.
11,500. Well, it holds 6 is what I think the Jackson Coliseum, Oman Arena holds. So you're right. So it's about 4,000 or 5,000 less. But it's just like a miniature Mid-South Coliseum still sitting there, and they're doing work on it. And I'd love for one day there to be a big show with it and everything. Like I said, I think the school system owns it now, and it all depends on how things goes with that.
I told Terry Golden that I thought we needed to have somebody or several people drive over. I think people just out of habit, the Jackson people, is going to just in their mind think that's where it is. And Terry says it's all fenced off now. Do you ever drive by there?
Well, it is, because they're building another, it's either a soccer stadium, Randy, or something like that. But I hadn't went by in a little bit, but somebody told me that the other day that they had it fenced off because they was building like another little stadium right there beside of it.
That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to being in Jackson, and we'll have a lot of old friends, and maybe an old enemy or two will be in the house in Jackson, Tennessee.
Well, you ain't kidding. Hey, Randy, won't you or Gene y'all both got the list of the talent, but go over a few of those guys that's going to be there, Randy, and maybe a few stories about a few of them.
Okay, first of all, let's start with the whole event. We're calling it a night to remember, but it's actually going to start in the afternoon at 3:30 in the afternoon. Anybody listening, it's at the Picture Perfect Event Center at 2310 North Highland. Now, off the top of your head, Doug, do you remember, is that exit 82?
82, yeah.
Take exit 82. It's on North Highland. It's easy to find Picture Perfect Event Center.
Yeah, you get right off. It's not but a mile off the exit, right up on top of the hill to your left.
Everybody can get tickets at the best way to do it, certainly. And if you see a poster anywhere on my social media, you can scan the QR code. But easy way to do it is go to Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame.com, and that takes you directly to a link to buy your tickets. And we're so excited. At 3:30, here's the list, and so I'll smarten everybody up here. This is an audio podcast, but we can see each other. And so I'm showing Doug right now at the first of the list for the meet and greet at 3:30. The list of names is Tommy Rich. Sorry, he's a little older than you. I put Tommy first. I put you second. So Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert, many-time USWA Tag Team Champions. They'll be there. Coco Beware in the house. Downtown Bruno, Carl Fergie, Jerry Calhoun, the great referee, Pat Rhodes, Tom Pritchard's tag team partner in the mid-'80s, Kerry Morton, who is the son of Rick Morton, Tony Falk, LT Falk, Dave Brown, Shane Russell, Reggie B. Fine, Doug Basham, Danny Davis' nephew, Brandon Baxter, the Power Pro talent, the KAW talent. It'll be loaded. And of course, everybody, the 10 people that we're going to induct into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, they will be there too. And that event will start after the meet and greet. Meet and greet, everybody, including the Hall of Fame inductees, will be there. And Gene, why don't you go ahead, and I'm blowed up. Why don't you tell everybody who's going to be inducted?
Okay, so for the inductees, it's quite a class this year. You've got For the announcers, you've got Michael St. John, who's been around announcing Memphis Wrestling. My gosh, guys, what, back to the early 80s? Or was it did he predate that?
Yeah, since about 1800.
Yeah, for 1800. He used to, when Jerry Jarrett split from Nick, and before Lance Russell came up, there was about 4 weeks of the worst television announcers in the history of the world. And I won't mention those names at Channel 5 before Dave. Lance came first, then Dave came. But to announce the matches at the Mid-South Coliseum, to do the commentary, Michael did.
Hey, Randy, I don't mean to interrupt, but hey, what did you think about, didn't Big Jack do it for a time or two?
Yeah, I love Big Jack. He was several times when either Lance or Dave was gone, he would come in and do it. Do you remember his famous saying, what it was?
It seems like I do. What was it though, Randy?
Either Great Scott or Great Caesar's ghost.
That's it. But no, I've seen some of a little bit of his stuff, and I always just thought he was like a good fill-in guy and everything. But I wasn't sure how long he had done it for or anything. I thought y'all just brought him in when y'all needed somebody every once in a while.
Now, Michael St. John, the two things that we're leading off with in his induction ceremony, and I'll smarten people up a little bit about this ceremony because we will have video, and I hadn't decided. I'm going to show one video. He's famous for two. He did the audio of the Hogan debut video in 1979. Then he did the audio of the Kamala video in 1982.
In the jungle of South Africa.
Or 467 Cumberland Hills Drive.
Hendersonville, Tennessee, right?
In the wilds of the Jarrett estate.
Yes, sir.
Kamala, 6 foot, 10 inches tall. Kamala, 455 pounds. Yeah, that was.
So which one should I go with, Doug? Would you go with the Hogan one, or would you go with the Kamala one, or would you add a couple of minutes and do both? Because that's what he's most famous for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people are going to say Hogan, but I like the Kamala one best myself. But I mean, people are going, because so many people, and Hogan's, been all over everywhere and everything, they would say Hogan, but I like the Kamala one better. But Hogan's probably whichever one, or you could split them or do both.
Maybe a little of both, I would think. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, next, who do we got?
All right, so next up, we've got a man who is primarily known to be a tag team wrestler throughout his career, but he also managed and did all sorts of things, and then later in life became a trainer to the stars, Mr. Nightmare Danny Davis.
I think this is pretty cool that Danny, who just happens to be from Jackson, Tennessee, because we got Doug from the area from Lexington. We got Danny, and Danny's making his return, and he's another one like Doug. We were talking earlier about doing podcasts, and you landed Doug, and Danny's been asked many, many times, and he said yes to me, and he was on my show. By the way, Whoopi has tried to get Danny Davis for years and years and years, and he wouldn't do it. But maybe because of the fact he's getting a payoff from me for this Jackson show, maybe he felt obligated. But Danny, he was trained by Terry Sawyer. I don't know if you know this, by Terry Sawyer and Buddy Fuller in Bolivar, Tennessee. So he had two great people training him.
I actually didn't know that, Randy. That's cool. That's some information. I tell people that's listening to this show, Randy, I hope when they leave with more knowledge than they come with. And it would probably be more knowledge from Gene than myself, which today it would be probably more knowledge from Gene and yourself than me. But like stuff like that, I love to know. And like I said, I didn't know that. I don't know if Gene did or not, but I didn't know it.
His first claim to fame in the wrestling profession, I believe, or know, the managers of the Blonde Bombers, who was Wayne Ferris, who later became Hulk Hogan.
Larry Latham.
Yeah, Larry Latham, who later became Dog Spot. So that was the first main deal he was in.
And hey, Randy, you know what? And like I said, I hate to keep saying hate to interrupt you, but you know, one of the coolest things that I like that Danny done in the early days was, remember when Lawler made him his what was it, his lieutenant or what was it? Remember in Lawler's army, wasn't Danny something?
He was a sergeant in
Sergeant
Danny Davis.
That's it. That's it. Well, what am I saying? Lieutenant Sergeant Danny Davis. But I like that version of him was cool, which I've liked all the versions of him.
Hey,
And Danny really helped me a whole lot in wrestling business, Randy. I worked a program with him in Continental, and man, Danny was a wrestler. I mean, and a tough dude.
One thing that Danny also did, a couple of other things I'll mention. Of course, he was a part of the Nightmare Tag Team. He was a part of the First Family of Wrestling, and most people kind of overlook this, but in the famous Andy Kaufman deal with Jerry Lawler, the first match they ever did, the manager of Jerry Lawler, and this before my time in the office, I don't know why they did this. Do you have any idea why Lawler, who was the babyface, had a manager, Danny Davis? Danny Davis was in Jerry Lawler's corner against Andy Kaufman. Do you remember that, Doug?
You know what? I saw the other day, I say the other day, it was probably a year or two ago. I saw that film and I was thinking, what in the world is going on there? And actually, when I first saw it, I thought Danny was coming out to hit the ring to do some kind of swerve or something. But no, I have no idea why that went on for.
Then later on, when the USWA was sold and that fiasco happened, he opened up OVW that turned into, along with Power Pro, a developmental center that lasted a long, long time. So Danny did have his hands in training a lot of guys along with Rip Rogers back in the day. And that's not somebody I have coming, but still, Rip Rogers was a part of that training.
Hey, you know, a funny thing, Gene, Danny called me. We was in Louisville working at the Gardens, and it was during the time Randy was booking. And Danny called me and said, Doug, will you come over and do a promo do an interview for me for a commercial? And I said, what for, Danny, a commercial? And he said, for my wrestling school. And so I go over there and they got the camera set up and everything. And he says, you know, it's OVW did Danny Davis Wrestling Academy. And so, the first thing that comes out of my mouth, right? Nightmare Danny Davis. And we get done. But I mean, I plugged the whole rest of the thing, but the first thing that comes out of my mouth is Nightmare. And we get done. And I said, was that okay? He said, oh, it was perfect. You just had to throw that Nightmare in there, didn't you? I thought, well, that's just, that's what we all, grew up with.
That's part of his name, man. Right, he's right. Nightmare Danny Davis.
Yeah, but he didn't, at that point, he didn't want that Nightmare. Yeah. He just wanted Danny Davis, the OVW Wrestling Academy and everything. But I done like a couple different ones for different commercials for him to help, to help him out, everything. And he took me out to lunch. We asked him before I come over there, he said, I'll pay you. I said, we'll talk about it. And he said, what do you want me to pay you? I said, we'll talk about it. And then when I got done, he said, well, what I got to pay you? I said, buy me lunch. And he started laughing. I mean,
that's a pretty good deal. Yeah. So
yeah, because at that time, Randy, and not blowing my own horn or anything, but TV was so hot up there in Louisville, and we was drawing good. That was, I mean, a good promo for him to have on TV at that time.
We'll break into the list of people, Gene, if I could, and I want to say with Doug right on the screen, Doug was over in the entire territory, and people in Memphis really didn't have a clue we were in Louisville the next night, and people in Louisville didn't know we were in Memphis the day before. So on Mondays, Doug was over in Memphis, and they considered Doug their guy. Well, same thing, and Doug was over in Memphis. However, I would say, Doug, that you were over more than anybody in Louisville, more than anybody. Zero. Of course, Tommy was in there, but just as a single as well. I would say, I want to know your opinion, but I would say Lawler, Memphis. I would say, even though he was over the rest of the territory, I would say Doug Gilbert, Louisville. in my mind, no doubt about it. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't blow my own horn, but I always thought Louisville was as far as all of them will always be the king and superstars towns, but Louisville during that time I really had it going on, and but I mean the reason I had it going on was the way that had been being booked, and the way that the storylines, and I hate even say storylines, the way the booking had went and the hard work that we'd put in to get everything over and everything. But yeah, Louisville was really, I loved Louisville. Louisville was great, which I loved Memphis too. I loved it. As hard as this is to say, and I don't mean this in a bad way, and Gene's fixing to laugh, but I loved Evansville. I loved Nashville. I mean, I loved this territory was just and I think Randy will tell you this too, Gene, and I think he would say it was his territory. But what I'm saying is growing up on this territory, this is what we looked at. I mean, yeah, you had WWF, you had WCW's the big ones, but like me and you've talked about, Gene, in a couple of the earlier episodes, when you had all of the territories, this was our territory. This is what we got to watch. And like I told you, when I was in Atlanta, I'd watch Pedicino. He had like 8 hours of shows from all the territories. And, you'd have your Memphis, you'd have your 3 different organizations out of Texas that would be on there. You'd have your Portland, your Randy could probably, and Gene, you and Randy both kind of historians. Y'all know, I mean, I think there was like 19 or 20 territories at one time here in the United States that you could actually call real territories and everything. And I mean, to me, that was the great times. And we still, like Randy, me and Gene have talked about, I think we was the last actually territory, right? I mean,
absolutely, 100%, 100%. There's no doubt. I want to throw in about what you said on Louisville. I can tell you, I like the other towns too. Louisville was my favorite place to go.
Now, here's one thing, and I done something one night, Gene, and I thought, dang, and I went down to the dressing room and I told Randy they'd done a thing where the heels wound up jumping me, and I was still kind of half heel, and I don't want to say I was half babyface, but I was half heel, but the heels was getting on me at that point. And they done a thing where they pile drove me, and Randy had them do something, and I told them pile drive me again. They pile drove me again, and then they got on me a little bit more, and they just left me in the ring. But the people it was just one of those quiet. It wasn't even they'd stop booing. It was just quiet, and I was just laying there. Well, they wound up bringing in Louisville. They had like used to in Memphis. They did, they had their own like first aid people and stuff. So Louisville, they brought a stretcher to the ring, and which I was just selling in the ring, but I didn't realize they'd bring something to the ring. Well, they brought a gurney to the ring and wound up putting me on it and carrying me back to a room. Well, then the people went to the back and they stayed outside that room, and the people was looking at my neck and stuff, and they said, well, we're going to call an ambulance. Well, the first thing that was said was, I said, no. I said, I'm going to be okay. And they said, no, you need an ambulance. And I said, no, because I knew at that point an ambulance was going to be about $3,000, right, Randy?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to be okay. But I was thinking, I'm laying there, and this is my first thought, and this is the way Randy as a booker, myself as a performer, wrestler, I'm thinking, gosh, why didn't we film this and me be off about 2 weeks, because we always done everything in Memphis, and the thing, and Randy, I think, done 2 or 3 things in Louisville where we taped it, didn't you, Randy? Where we taped it there
at the end. So right before that, I think honestly, we would I hired a camera guy from a TV station, and now that you mentioned that deal you're talking about, you did say to me we should have filmed it, and I said we won't make that mistake again. And right. Every other Tuesday after that, we had cameras there.
Right, but because my whole deal, Gene, was I thought, and like I told Gene before, Randy, and Gene knows this, and you, and for sure you do, Randy. I mean, it's all about the dollars and cents as far as you booking, as far as us guys working, and as far as drawing money. Everybody's going to be a lot happier if there's money than if there's not, and right. Everything. But I mean, I thought that night I was laying back there and I thought, dang, I wish we'd filmed this, and I could have been off about 2 weeks, and I could have went somewhere else and done something for 2 weeks. But when we come back, we would have drew a lot of money on that. But now we did tape a lot of stuff for stuff like that, and it drew a lot of money. But I was just saying we missed out on that one opportunity there. But like I said, Randy, I think after me and him talked about that, he did have cameras there a lot more than at Louisville. But it was like, I mean, they had, and me and Randy talked about this before, Gene, that you've done your TV in Memphis, and everybody in Memphis seen everything, almost everything you could see. And what was cool, I don't want to say like Louisville was like kind of virginish as far as angles and stuff, but they just hadn't been as much stuff done there. Now they would see it, but it hadn't been done there. So that's right. What was kind of cool. And Randy had the generation of us guys, the younger guys, that was kind of carrying the load at that point. And I mean, and like I said, I'm not tooting my own horn. It's Randy can tell you more than I can about the figures and everything. But I mean, we was doing good business, so that's the thing. But anyway, I've got off of the topic like I usually do. But anyway, we can go back to the Hall of Fame.
You're good. Before we get back on the Hall of Fame thing, something got brought up there that I don't think it gets talked about enough, that I kind of like to hear both of y'all maybe comment on, because Randy touched on it, and kind of to your point, Doug, what you were just talking about is like, all of us have always just referred to, Memphis Wrestling. But, you had Louisville and Evansville and Nashville and Jackson. And I know that most of those places probably knew that the TV was recorded in a studio in Memphis. But the perception of them wasn't, this is Memphis Wrestling, like this is our wrestling. Because that day of the week, you had a card there. So the perception for them was always like, oh, this is the Evansville Wrestling Show. This is the Louisville Wrestling Show.
Right.
I don't think people talk about that enough. If y'all kind of talk about kind of how people perceived it in the different towns, did it differ from place to place, or,
It was their wrestling, because they watched wrestling on Channel 3 in Louisville, Channel 17 in Nashville, Channel 7 in Evansville, Channel 5 in Memphis, Channel 7 in Jackson, Channel 9 in Tupelo. It was just like Tupelo wrestling. It was Jonesboro wrestling. It was Evansville. It was Lexington, Channel 18 in Lexington. It was a whole territory. The biggest mistake I've made about this Hall of Fame that I regret, now we're expanding it with this show in Jackson. I regret, Doug, calling it the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. But the perception is that's what now everybody says, Memphis, and it's not that. And I wish I would have not called it the Memphis. I don't know what I'd have called it.
But well, that's what I'm saying, Randy. Everybody relates though back to this being Memphis Wrestling, which to the point that Gene's saying. I mean, that they got it at their town and it was their show. I guess what we've all just always said and thought was we recorded it in Memphis, so we've always just said Memphis Wrestling. But Randy, you're exactly right. I wish there was a good name that you could say for the territory. I mean, you wouldn't say Territory Hall of Fame, but I don't know. I guess you could say Memphis Territory Hall of Fame or something, but not just Memphis. But you know what I'm saying? Because you've got, like you said, like me and Gene have talked about the episodes before. I told him, I said, Memphis Monday night, Louisville Tuesday night, Evansville Wednesday night, when y'all had before. But Randy, you was around. I wasn't as far as working wise, but you remember going to Rupp Arena, Lexington, Kentucky. They had it for years, didn't they? And they run it and everything had done real good. But then you'd have spot show on Friday night. Then you'd have Saturday night, have Jonesboro, have Nashville, have Jonesboro. I mean, it's like Randy said, that if there was a better name, but I think everybody understands when you say Memphis Hall of Fame, though, they realize it's the territory. Definitely. But I agree with Randy. He's right that if there was a name, because like I said, like you said, Gene, I mean, you had Nashville that got their TV, you had Louisville got their TV, you had Evansville got their TV, which is it's kind of a cool thing. And Randy, me and Gene have talked before about. I was telling them about the bicycle and the tape around and everything, and that was before there was cell phones and all that, and it wasn't, people didn't know that, how everything was.
Now, I think about this so much now with social media, and I'm holding up my phone. You can see it on the screen. but everybody with camera phones and all that. The way we did our booking, whether it was me or your brother or Lawler or Dundee or Jerry Jarrett, anybody that's ever booked this territory did it the same way. Basically, Louisville would be in Evansville and everything would be a week behind, and you would do the same stuff on Tuesday that you did the previous Monday. These days and times, it would be out on the internet, out on Facebook, out on Twitter. Couldn't have booked that way. Now,
before we left the building, everybody would have known.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There's no
so
way
you
to make
couldn't
that
have
work.
booked the way we book. People say, "Hey,
no,
why don't you help bring the territories back?" There's no way to do that. It would be a possibility, but not the way we did it. It would be impossible.
And I told Gene, Randy, you book a month out or something. I said Eddie would book a month or 2 months out, but I told him it was hard because you had to make sure those guys was still going to be there, but you had your core guys that was loyal to you. And I told Gene sometimes it was hard to find guys like that, but usually the good bookers found their loyal guys to them that they could depend on and they didn't have to worry about leaving. And that's kind of, I don't want to say the most talented guys, but the guys that could draw you money. And that's the bottom line in all this. And me and Gene has talked about it, is drawing money. The angles being good, the ideas that you've got, the bookers got, and the guys do. And I've told Gene before that you give us a lot of leadway. I mean, you had your stuff that you wanted done, but you'd ask us if we had any input. I mean, if we had any input, you'd listen to us and everything. And I told him Eddie was like that as far as with a lot of guys from opening match to the end. But I mean, the guys that you was counting on to draw you money, you had what you wanted to do, but you always listened to input if we had any input.
And a lot of times you did, and normally with the top guys, I always loved that because it wasn't like an argument or they coming in and saying, "Hey, I don't want to do that." It wasn't that at all.
No, it was actually just maybe adding a little something to it, wasn't it, Randy? Or we would talk and Randy would say, "Well, I still want to do this, but do this," and it might not even been what we said, but it gave him another thought of something that would lead to something else, and we might add that on to it. But it was cool. I told Gene it was cool to have that opportunity to be able to give input and to be heard.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up and coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
All right, Gene.
All right, moving along in the list. We talked about hometown boy Danny Davis. Let's talk about another hometown boy that's going in the Hall of Fame. He was a wrestler, but most people know him better for being the man who brought us KEW, which eventually became Memphis Championship Wrestling. And, of course, I'm talking about Mr. Terry Golden.
Terry Golden. I think Terry originally, Doug, help me if I'm wrong on this. I think originally he's from Camden, Tennessee. Am I right on that?
You're right.
And then he's in Jackson, and he has multiple businesses, very successful. You know, it's funny because what Doug was saying, or you said as a lead into this show, me and Doug together is shocking, and it's really not, because Doug and I have talked for years and years. I remember Doug calling me when I was running the Sonics in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. I can remember I was in my kitchen, phone rang, and said, Doug Gilbert. And it was like there's no history in the past. It was just, what are you doing, Randy Bentley? And boom, there we go from there. And it's the same issue with everybody. You know, wrestling is a sport, first of all. People, and certainly, I hate the sports entertainment name, just the entertainment thing, because it is a sport, and the talent were competitive. They were competitive for the spot. Doug, as when he started in the business in mid-'80s, Doug, you weren't expecting to be in that main event unless maybe it was steaming with your dad or your brother, right. And that wasn't a regular basis. But certainly, I always believed in top guys. You listen to everybody, but it was the top guys. The first, they weren't thinking how to get over. They weren't thinking that at all. Specifically, they were thinking, how will my check be more next week, and in 2 weeks, in my 3 weeks? Fans obviously don't think that a lot of times, and I understand that. But we were all in this. We loved it, but the bottom line is money.
Yeah, we were all in it together.
Yeah, absolutely. So who we got coming up?
All right. So also another guy who had a great wrestling career.
Now, hold on, Jay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but hey, I didn't say anything about Terry, but hey, Terry is a great dude, and me and him talk every couple of weeks or so. But he started KEW down in Memphis, and I'm not sure what year that was and everything, but I worked for him.
98.
Was it 98?
98, 99.
He started in 98 or 99, and myself, Tommy, Dutch, all of us worked for him. I think I worked for him more than they did. I think they worked for him maybe a time or two, but I think I worked for him there about half a dozen times or something. And, man, it was always good, which I asked him one time. I said, hey, Terry, because I didn't know at that point they didn't have TV. And he didn't have TV, but, I mean, he would push it, and he'd get sponsors and stuff. And I asked him one night, I said, hey, Terry, this is doing good. I said, are you giving some stuff away? And he said, no, Doug, I'll never give anything away. So, I mean, he was a business guy like Randy and everything, and knew how to operate and run and deal with people and everything. But like Randy said, he's a very successful business guy. And I mean, he's always been straight with me and everything. And he's just a really good dude. But I just wanted to say that because, like I said, I didn't say anything about Terry.
So just the fact that wrestling fans would think, just because it was Power Pro and it was KEW and we both ran Memphis, Terry Golden and I have never had a cross words ever, not one single one ever. And it would probably be surprising to a lot of people, and a lot of the wrestlers would probably be shocked. Were you shocked when you first heard, Doug, that Terry and I was going to run this together?
Actually, I was. And about the funny thing, about 3 months before either one of you called me, somebody else called me and said, Doug, are you on that show that Terry Golden and Randy Hales are running? I said, I guess not. And I said, this was my exact words. I said, Terry Golden and Randy Hales are running a show together? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, that's cool. I said, but I hadn't heard from either one of them. I said, they said, well, you talk to Randy, don't you? I said, I talked to Randy and I talked to Terry. I said, but I hadn't heard anything about a wrestling show.
The deal, you were always on the list, but we had to on budgets and getting the Hall of Fame people in there, and you went in several years ago, and I
2017,
think, and Tommy went in
2022
at the casino in Mississippi. And the cool thing, and we'll get to another thing because Doug's not going to get through this thing without being a part of the Hall of Fame ceremony, and we'll explain that later. But certainly, the Golden Randy Hales marriage together has been great. Not a crossword. We're on the same page. We are fighting the same battles, which is kind of means we're fighting the same people, but at least it's the fight. It's me and him on every issue we've had. We've been on the same page, 100%. So really happy with that. Really happy with that.
And what that means for the fans is at this event, you're not only seeing the old school Memphis legends, but you're getting to see the stars of Power Pro. You're getting to see the stars of KEW. You're getting to see the stars of MCW. So you guys coming together is a win for the fans because they're getting to see, all these different wrestlers from all these different generations of Memphis wrestling. So,
and I think that one of the things two things that's fallen by the wayside, because we've really pushed the meet and greet. Doug and Tommy and so many people we mentioned earlier are going to be a part of that. Then we're really pushing the Hall of Fame without a doubt on that. And Doug mentioned earlier, and the thing that I'm excited about, he's talking about the tribute to the feud of Lawler and Dundee, and it will be a presentation. We're not going to tell you what it's going to be. You got to be there, but it'll be fantastic. We're going to do two different presentations in that segment, and it's going to be called The Rivalry for the Ages, Lawler, Dundee. Excited about that. Then the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is what we're talking about now.
Hey, me and Tommy can't come out and jump up, can we, Randy?
Well, not if you have permission.
Wait till you get to the building and the part of the production meeting. I'm not going to give away my stuff to the people. Does that give you a hint?
Oh, there you go.
All right. Well, let's keep this moving before we say too much here. So the next inductee we're going to talk about, like I say, this guy was a great wrestler in his time, but he's also a guy who has since moved on to being a big-time trainer and has had a hand in the careers of many big stars you watch on television today. And, of course, I'm referring to Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Dr. Tom Pritchard will be inducted by Pat Rose. Looking forward to that. Tom is a funny guy, funny dude. I mean, he really is fun to be around. How would you describe his sense of humor?
Dr. John. He got out at exit 56 one time, which exit 56, Gene, if you don't know, is Brownsville, Tennessee. Somebody looked at him and said, you Dr. John Pritchard? and I freaking, you talking about some of the funniest stuff. And Tom's sense of humor is so dry. But I'd say dry. Is dry the right word, Randy? I mean, it's just, you don't, I mean,
unique.
It's unique and a little bit dry, and it's. Me and him lived in apartments beside one another when we was working in Continental, and the pool was right beside. Like I was, say right here, and he was right next to me, and then the pool was like right outside the door of our apartment, and Tom is something. We would go out to the pool, and some days would be. Every day I had a good time with him, but his sense of humor is so freaking funny. And then some days I'd go out the pool and he wouldn't say two words to me. I'd think, well, dang, did I do something to make him mad? I was still a young fella at that time. And I thought, I don't want to be mad at him because Tom was always so great. And Tom's a great worker. He taught a lot of guys a lot and everything. I mean, Tom's just a he is a good dude. Like me and you talked before about, we talked a little bit about his brother, Randy. We talked a little bit about Bruce. I told him Bruce was a great guy. That Bruce was my manager in Global, and that Tom was a great guy too. But both of them, Eddie was probably closer with Bruce, and I was probably closer with Tom and everything. But I love Bruce and Tom both, but they're like, two opposites. If you got them together and you think, are you sure they're brothers? But I love Tom. Tom's great. I love him.
And they're two guys like you guys that were around it their entire life,
Absolutely. Positively. Who's next, Gene?
So next we've got a guy who I guess kind of gained his fame as a tag team wrestler. He started out as one half of the Harlem Knights, which evolved into Men on a Mission. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Sir Mo.
Yeah, Bobby Horn, Sir Mo, and he has his own wrestling school and runs his own wrestling cards down in Texas now. And he was a part of the Men on the Mission and was a big part of Power Pro Wrestling as well. And we welcome him. One of his students currently is going to induct him, but excited about Sir Mo being inducted in the 2024 class.
Oh, yeah. Sir Mo's a good dude and everything, man. He's a good dude, and he's a solid worker and everything. He's been about everywhere there is to go and everything. And like I said, he's a good guy.
Let's skip now right now, if we could, Gene, to the other tag team specialists.
All right. Let's do that. Now, we've got a couple of tag team specialists here.
Sure do.
Well,
one team in mind?
Yeah, I think he's talking about actually the tag team that's going in, right, Randy?
Well, actually, the heel tag team that's going in that Doug's going to do the induction for.
Oh, okay.
Talk about that guy. Do you know where we're going with it now?
I assume that you would mean the one and only Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony.
Started in Memphis in the early 80s to the mid 80s. Well, early 80s would be fair, as the Grapplers. Ended up in the Dirty White Boys. It was Lynn Denton and Tony Anthony as the Dirty White Boys. And I handled calling everybody of these inductions except for one. And that the person that I'd ask if he'd make the call for me is Doug's close personal friend in Dirty White Boy. And so, Doug, I'll let you get a little practice on your induction speech, because I know Tony, the White Boy, means a hell of a lot to you.
Oh, he sure does, Randy. And I was you put me and Tommy together, but before that, a lot of people, Gene had some, or there was some people asked me on one of my virtual signings was there any something that they wouldn't know about me? And I said, well, who would have been my first partner that I won the USWA tag team titles with? And they come about 50 answers, and all 50 of them was wrong. 40 of them was Tommy Rich. I thought, well, after that first person said Tommy, and we said you're wrong, I would think you'd guess something else. But there's about 40 of them said Tommy Rich, and then finally one of them said the Dirty White Boy, Tony Anthony. And Tony Anthony was the first guy that was my partner that I won the USWA tag team belts with. And man, Tony's a great guy and a great worker. And like Randy said, as far as the Grapplers, they drew a bunch of money in Texas. And Randy, they actually was here at first as the Grapplers, right? Before they did that. Before.
Absolutely. Here it was Lynn and
Tony.
And Tony, yeah.
And then after they'd left, they went to Louisiana as the Dirty White Boys. Then they come back here, right, as the Dirty White Boys and everything. But man, Tony's a great worker, and I mean he's a super tough guy, and man, he taught me a lot, and he's just a great person. I mean, he's a good dude, and look here, he's straight up like I am a Tennessee Volunteer fan, and we loved watching our Vols last night, everything. I've been talking to him today about that. But, man, Tony's just a great dude, and like I said, he's an excellent talent.
The pride of Bucksnort, Tennessee.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm thrilled to death. He'll be rolling into Jackson big time, and really excited about that.
And hey, Randy, he is really excited about it. I appreciate you putting him in it. I don't know. Gene, I've never got quite the criteria that it takes, but as long as Randy watches and they're good enough for him, I guess we're good enough. But now he's picked some great ones to this year, and I thought he picked some great ones the year that we did it in 17 in Memphis at Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill. And I actually went back to look at the first time, I think in 94. I think didn't y'all do it, Randy, in 94 and 95?
Yeah, and we
At
did
the
it.
Coliseum. That was at the Coliseum. Right?
94, the headline people were Spuddy Monroe and Lance Russell. And 95, the headline person that was in the building in 95. And I'll give you a trivia kind of a little deal here in a minute. But in 95, Jackie Fargo was the headline act in the building. However, also in 95, we inducted Eddie Gilbert into the Hall of Fame, and then the only people that's inducted, and I believe I'm right on this. I'm positive I'm right on this. We did your dad earlier too. Then we did the Gilbert family as a whole back in did you say in 2017 and had you there? So the Gilbert family is all over the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is what it should be.
And you know what was really cool to me was, I guess Lance is a double inductee, which he probably should be a triple inductee, but I got to induct Lance and Dave into it because the King was out of town doing an appearance, and I think Randy was the one that asked me to do that. Right, Randy?
Yeah, I did, and the reason we did that, we had Lance in, and then we put Lance and Dave in as a team.
Together, right? I got you, and that was really cool. That meant a lot to me, y'all. And I've got pictures still of us together. I've got pictures of myself, Lance and Dave, and I've got pictures of myself, Lance and Dave, and Brandon Baxter together. I don't know how
he was the host of the deal that night.
That's how it happened then. But I've still got pictures of that, and man, that's really cool. That means a whole lot to me. Y'all don't know how much Lance meant to me and everything. From like, I was just looking a minute ago in my shop, and I've got a picture of what our camera guy Shields was Ron
Mike Shields.
Mike Shields. Mike Shields, Lance, myself sitting beside each other. I was about 6 years old and everything, but Lance was so cool. And I mean, Lance was so great at his job. Lance sold tickets himself. I don't mean went out and sold tickets. I'm talking about him talking. He could talk something bad into something great. I mean, I don't think there was that much bad that was on Memphis TV, but what I'm saying is Lance and Dave could talk people into the building. I mean,
I need to add this, and it's just something that kind of came upon us quickly. I reached out to Dave quick, but he said, well, let me check my schedule, and he never got back to me. I just assumed it was a no. And then he called me just a week or so ago. Dave Brown will be in Jackson on September the 21st. And Doug, I think you'll like this. The best announcer team in the history of mankind is Brown and Russell. I think there's no doubt, in people that grew up in Memphis, Brown and Russell and Brown goes together.
Right.
Coming up in Jackson, Tennessee on September the 21st at the Picture Perfect Event Center, hosting the ceremony for the Rivalry of the Ages and the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, once again will be Brown and Russell. I am thrilled with that. Dave Brown will be there, and Shane Russell, the youngest son of Lance Russell, will be there.
Well, I was going to say, Randy, how are you going to do that? But anyway, so now that you said Shane Russell, okay. But man, that's great. Yeah, Shane, I love Shane, and I'm glad he can be there. And yeah, like you said, Shane Russell and Dave Brown, that would be great. Because like you said, I don't want to just say around here. I want to say all over the world, people have listened to Lance Russell and Dave Brown. And it's like I told Gene, Randy, you have a little more knowledge, which I don't want to talk too long here because I've probably talked too long already. But anyway, I was telling Gene about the syndication stuff. Our TVs went like it wasn't ran into Chicago, New York. It wasn't just Memphis and Louisville, Nashville, and everything. They went. They was in a bunch of markets, right?
A ton of markets all over the country, probably in 50 states. Eventually, that probably as cable evolved and Vince McMahon's business involved, and everybody trying to keep up and be on as many places. So yeah, I would say that we were in 50 states.
But before I get off the subject, Gene, let's get back to you and who would be the next. I thought Randy was talking about the tag team that was going in. That's probably would be the next ones he would want to talk about.
I thought so too. But then when he dropped that other hand, I seen he was going a different direction. So do we want to do tag teams now, Randy, or do we want to?
I'm good for anything. I just wanted to get in. I wanted Doug to cover Tony real good, and I think he did. And I will just say that as a great tag team, and Tony drew money in Continental. He drew money in Smoky Mountain. He was top heel. He was the top babyface. He was a champion in a lot of different people and a lot of different places.
And him, sorry to interrupt, Randy, but like himself and Tom Pritchard, they had one of the best angles that was going anywhere in the country in Continental. I mean, Tony's a
great talent.
Great talent.
Great talent. Okay, move on. We're good.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
All right, so the next man we're going to talk about, and Randy's going to have some direct input on this one. This man was the first. You hear all kinds of people over the years have now been referred to as developmental talent for the WWF. This was the very first developmental talent ever, period. Was a man by the name of the Spellbinder. And I understand there's going to be a special induction for him as well, Randy.
Absolutely. It will hope to God that I will be smooth and good. He asked me to induct him. I think we all know, as long with Spellbinder was not the only person close to Brian Christopher. Certainly Doug was as well. Spellbinder, if I would have done this, I'll say 6 or 7 years ago, he'd have wanted Brian to induct him into the Hall of Fame. I think there's no doubt about that. He asked me to do it, and I'm thrilled. He was a character that he was never a whole lot of times booked on top, but he was steady, and his progress, Doug, was amazing. Now, I thought he was the drizzling, at day one, just a bodybuilder that came in. We wasn't calling it developmental, but that's exactly what it was, Gene. But he became a hell of a worker, right, Doug?
Do you know one of the guys that Randy booked him against and said, go out there and have a match with him and show him stuff? You know who one of those guys was, Gene? Well, if you don't, if you don't, you're talking to him right now. But I love Dale, and yeah, he learned a whole lot down here and everything. I just want to make sure that Randy makes him promise that he won't make the people disappear or anything.
Yeah, I've already told him that for sure. We don't need our people to disappear. We need him to make them appear with a paid ticket. That's what we need to do.
But hey, now Dale would.
I promise, brother.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, Dale would listen. Like Randy tell me go out there with him and go 15 minutes or however long. And I mean, but we'd have him. I mean, I just have him doing simple wrestling stuff with me, and I mean, he really improved a whole lot.
A whole lot. So He deserves it. He's a big fan of the history of Memphis Wrestling. He's been a great guest on my show. I don't know if you've seen Gene. He does a great job.
Oh, yeah. And he has a very interesting story. His story from getting into the business straight through.
Right. And he does. And I mean, he's a really Christian guy now and everything. I mean, he's been from one extreme to the other. And Dale's a great dude. I mean, he'll call me and everything. We'll have good talks and everything. He just called me the other day. He wanted me to pave a 1 square acre for him. I think they're fixing to move one of their car lots to Jackson, Tennessee, right. and I got to go measure that off for him and see what that's going to take as far as tonnage of asphalt. I'm going to take care of that for him. But yeah, Dale's a great guy.
I'm excited about that, and I think it will be great. And the Spellbinder will be in Jackson, and will be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I'll do the induction. Gene?
Very cool. And now another tag team that's going in. We're going to save the other one towards the end because of who we got on the show here. But the next tag team that's going in is perhaps the tag team of the 80s, if you will, who
in the entire business.
In the entire business, not just Memphis. I mean, they set Memphis on fire, and then they went to the Mid-South, and they set the Mid-South on fire. Then they went to Crockett, the Carolinas, and they did it again there. Of course, talking about Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express.
Absolutely brought in as the B team by Jerry Lawler to the fabulous ones, Stan Lane and Steve Kern.
But and you know what, and Randy, and you might be right, but you know there was always competition, and competition makes things great.
Yeah,
Jerry Jarrett would have his guys, Randy would have his guys. Lawler would have his guys, but a lot of times Lawler's guys and Randy's guys would be the same guys. But right. Jerry Jarrett kind of had the Fabs. Lawler had the Rock and Roll. And, I mean, I think both of them come out pretty well, don't you think?
I think they did. And then if you examine it, you're the journalist, Gene. In Memphis, I think you would have to say the tag team of the two that drew more money in Memphis would be the fabulous ones. I think there's no debate to that.
Fair.
But if you look at the tag team that drew money nationwide and on national TV, it would be the Rock and Roll Express, no doubt.
No, there's no debating that at all.
And like I said, with guys, you know, trying to, you know, make talent better and come up with gimmicks and everything. I mean, it makes, I think, for success when you got people trying to do better than one another. I mean, that's my outlook anyway.
100% agree, and I'm excited about this. And I want to ask you, Doug, and you too, Gene, if you've seen this guy. But the first person that came to my mind to induct the Rock and Roll Express was Ricky's son, Kerry Morton, who is currently working for Billy Corgan in the NWA, a former NWA World Junior Champion, a tag team champion. He's a good, very good young wrestler. So Kerry Morton will induct the Rock and Roll Express. I'm excited about that one, Doug.
It's been fun watching Kerry's progress. Like, I can remember Ricky bringing him like to Charlotte to the Fan Fest there when he was just like 12 years old, and they had him out there singing like the national anthem and stuff like that. And he was saying, you know, how he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps, and now to have watched him progress, and he's been NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and now I'm sure this is going to mean a whole lot to him to have this opportunity to induct his dad.
Hey, I'll tell you, Doug, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So Ricky introduced me. Ricky was at a show that TNA ran several years ago. I've never said this story before. This is the first. You're getting exclusive, and it's a funny story. Kerry will kill me for telling this story. So I was helping in the off season from what I was doing at the time. I was helping Jeff promote some towns, and it was Bristol, Tennessee. So here comes Ricky, who lives there, and Kerry, and so Ricky said, he's going to be the next super. You know how Ricky is. He's going to be the next superstar. He's going to do this and this. He wrestled better than any of the boys on this card, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? He said, yeah. I said, get me in a top wrist lock. And so I put my hand up like that, get me in a top wrist lock, and he put me in a hammer lock. In a hammer lock. I bet he knows the difference between a hammer lock and a top wrist lock now, Doug. But I'm thrilled to death. I think that'll be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I'm super excited. And, Randy, I think it was, I think he was having book at the time. Then Jarrett was booking at one time, and then Lawler was. Me and Eddie worked programs with Ricky and Robert here over the years and everything. And man, they're, like I said, I grew up. I stayed part of a summer with Ricky and his wife and everything. And I've just always been real tight with Ricky and actually Robert too, but more so Ricky. But they're both great guys and great athletes and everything. And my story on Kerry, though, would be when he was about 6 years old, and we was at Mid-South Coliseum, and he ran by one of the guys, and he punched him right in the groin. And and me and Lawler and somebody was standing there, and he said, the King said, "Who's that?" And I said, "That's Ricky Morton's boy." He said, "He's my son. I'd kill him."
That's funny. Rock and Roll Express going into the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame on September the 21st.
And hey, that they're well deserved. If anybody is, the Rock and Roll Express, they're both great guys. I love them. They're both my friends.
So we talked about them being the tag team of the 80s. So if we're going to talk about perhaps the Memphis tag team of the 90s, a tag team going in that I know Randy knows a little bit about, and Doug is very familiar with. You and Tommy Rich had some battles with these guys. Of course, I'm talking about Wolfie D and JC Ice, PG-13.
Some sort of way, Jeff Jarrett in 92 or 93 got wind of those guys and talked his dad into hiring them. They were underneath just almost like a comedy act, silly stuff, that's sort of way. And then Doug and Tommy and me and the whole territory and Brian Christopher was in a bind because just all of a sudden overnight, Jerry Lawler was on almost every Monday night, never in Louisville, never in Evansville, never in Nashville. He was at TV from time to time. Jeff Jarrett got Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler had been pulling the wagon, so to speak, for many, many years. All of a sudden, I was booking and they were gone. And what the very first deal was, the very first Memphis Memories we did in March of 94. That's the first thing that was successful that got me the booking job. And the core people that I was going to go with was Tommy, Doug, Brian Christopher as the single top baby face. And then I had my tag team heels, my main event heels, and Doug and Tommy both proven as main events. But I went with PG, and I got a lot of heat on myself, and I think there was a doubt. We started them off with the Eliminators, about 5 or 6 weeks, big guys, and PG went out in the end. That got them over. But what took them from a underneath tag team on the good to have on the card to drawing money, you're looking at one of them or you're listening to one of them right here is Doug Gilbert. What got them transformed to money drawing people was Tommy and Doug and the stuff we did with them. Do you agree with that? That was the key.
Oh yeah, I definitely do. And I think they, not that it was anything that was easy for them, but when they did the deal with the Eliminators and all that, I think that was a good little program for them. But yeah, the angle with myself and Tommy, I think that really shot them on up. And we sure made them believable and everything to the people. And the people and they worked hard. They worked hard and did. And it's like go back before and say it's people that's loyal to the booker, that the booker can trust, is that the guys are going to be there and everything. And they worked hard. Anybody can say whatever they want. And there's a lot of stuff that Jamie might do that hell, I might not even agree with. Randy might not agree with. But at the time, they worked hard. They showed up. They done their job. They were straight. Everything was, I mean, they had paid their dues. They went to all the small towns and not made much money and everything. And Randy gave them a break. And when he gave them that break, they made the most of it. I mean,
now, Doug, tell the people, this is what they don't understand. So Lawler said to me, said, "Are you sure?" Said, "I've had friends saying those guys couldn't whoop anything." He said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm sure."
But I think, Randy, that's where we had to make them believable.
Right.
I think that's what the whole thing was, making people, making people think. I mean, and yeah, look, every guy that's a little bit smaller, they say, well, he couldn't whip this guy or he couldn't whip that guy. Look, in life, if you go out there and look, we had Jamie, JC Ice. I had him, I'd get Tommy to tag me and I'd call a spot where I'd just come right in and let him power slam me. Well, now, in all reality, if I didn't get where I needed to be, he wouldn't have been able to power slam me.
Right.
But we made them believe that they could. And to me, that's what got them over and everything. And then Randy stuck them right in an angle after me and Tommy. He stuck them in an angle with the rock and roll.
And Smoky Mountain versus USW. You and Tommy were Tommy first because you were out, and then you, and just the involvement of the story, and then at the end of that story, then we switched you back and went to part 4 of PG, Doug, and Gilbert. But what would have happened if because I put it at the main event, Rich and Gilbert against PG. If it wouldn't have drawn, if it would have sucked all the way, what would have happened? What's the first thing that would have happened?
Oh, they would have been gone, or we'd been gone, or we'd have been moved. We'd been moved, or you'd have been gone.
And that's what I would have been gone.
Yeah, right.
I would have been gone as the booker.
But and as far as with the King asking you that, because he would have said, Randy, I told you. With the people telling him that they don't believe in him, that the first thing he would have said was, Randy, I told you, didn't I? Ain't that what he would have said, Randy?
But it didn't happen.
And nobody wants to be wrong, so he was wanting to be able to say I was right, but the gates don't lie. He doesn't want it to fail, so he's happy when you're making money.
No, he didn't want it to fail. He just, honest to God, thought it wouldn't work, and he was happy that it did work.
Yeah, and believe me, he loved they got over. He loved. It's like me and you talked, Gene. There is no booker or owner I've ever known that wanted somebody not to get over. Yeah. I mean, and Randy, I've told Gene this, and many of them talk. It's all about, we can all say whatever we want, but it's all about dollars and cents. Yeah. Because if those tickets are bought, we're doing something right. If they're not bought, there's something that the people's not buying.
Right, and you have to change. No doubt. PG-13, and we'll make the announcement in the building. Who'll do that induction, and so I'm excited about that.
You don't want me to go ahead and do it now?
No. I don't, because we don't know.
Sure we do. I talked to him yesterday.
I heard the latest, but was more than just yesterday. So maybe you heard some. We won't get into this, but the latest I heard that person you're thinking that we're not talking about it, can't do it. So has he changed his mind again?
I don't know. I'm just playing with you, Randy. Okay. Gene, what we got next? I'm carrying this too long.
All right, so we're down to the headliner, right, Randy? This is down to the nitty gritty. We've covered everybody, so now we've got the legend himself, the boy from New York City, the Boogie Woogie Man, handsome Jimmy Valiant.
Before I'm going to make this show busy, I'm going to make this I'm going to give you guys a little show. I'm going to give you a big thing. Now, I know this is audio only podcast, but we're doing this thing. Doug, can you see me?
Yeah.
Now, tell the people what I'm holding up to the screen right now.
He's holding up the old microphones is what it looks like, right, Randy?
This is the microphone that Lance Russell used to do the interviews for Louisville, Evansville, Nashville, the whole territory, and also did the commentary with at the announce table. Randy West found it in the back of his drawer I'll put that down now. This is a gimmick thing. It's not even plugged in, by the way. But I love when I do my show, I show this. This is the original Lance Russell microphone, and this is the showbiz. I'm going to do a little concert for you. So you better put your earmuffs on or something, because it came rolling into Memphis, TWA. Tell all the ladies, handsome Jimmy's on the way. I'm a rocker. I'm a roller. I'm a little fucker too. I was raised by Gypsy, old handsome Jimmy. Cool. Handsome Jimmy Valiant comes rolling into Memphis, and very deservedly, and I just couldn't. He could have been in the first class of the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, but he wasn't. But in 2024, it's about time, and handsome Jimmy Valiant. What a character, Doug.
Oh man, I've loved Jimmy ever since I've known him. What a great guy and everything. Just the people, the perception of him. Jimmy's something else. You would think one way and he's the other, but what a great guy and laid back. And I don't know, Randy, if there's ever been for a guy that went out there and was so wild and everything. I don't know that there's been a guy that is laid back as Jimmy Valiant is, has or Randy.
No doubt. It's no doubt at all. I was in Louisville, and then coming back to Memphis, he flew in, and he was always laid back and quiet. But we stopped at the Mount Washington Shepherdsville exit there.
Shepherdsville,
in Louisville, at that truck stop, and we go in. Well, I don't know what Handsome was trying to do. He was full-blown handsome Jimmy, Mercy Daddy, blah, blah, blah. And we had people, I heard one of the cashiers said, we need to call the police, because he was 100% in character. And in the dressing room, it was almost like he was asleep. Soft-spoken, wasn't it, Doug?
Soft-spoken, well-spoken, nice, polite. I mean, you just can't beat Jimmy. Jimmy's great. My whole life that I've known him, Jimmy's been a great guy, and I mean, would help people out if they need help. Just a good guy. I mean, just a good guy to deal with.
There's no one else like him. You know what I mean? Like you can't name like, oh yeah, it's just like Jimmy Valiant. Jimmy Valiant is so unique, and what an awesome addition to the Hall of Fame.
Are we about at the end of this thing?
We are, man. We are
Can I make just something with Doug on the thing, and I want to see if Doug agrees with this.
Please do.
Can I say that? I think obviously the bookers are going to get the praise if it's working. Sometimes unfairly 100% of the praise. If it's not working, sometimes, and that's not fair either, because sometimes 100% part of the blame. We had a period there starting in 94 through the end of the USWA that the grassroots bottom line people that I wouldn't have been successful without. It was Tommy Rich, it was Doug Gilbert, it was Brian Christopher, it was Jamie Dundee and Whoopi D. It was 5 of them and me. Sometimes that 5 of them gets left out, and I can be an egomaniac, and I am at times, but just say, hey, it was all me. It wasn't all me. Every one of the guys, Tommy and Doug, Tommy would suggest more than Doug would, because he was a veteran. He had more experience and seen more. Then second to that would be Doug. Third to that would be, who would you think the third and I would say Brian.
Yeah, I would think Brian, because before me and Tommy and PG, me and Brian had Randy booked the angle with me and Brian, and like I said, I was kind of wanting to get into this on another episode, because could be a whole a whole show about this. Yeah. But I would say Brian, most definitely would be third.
So I just want to give them props And when we were on our ass, it wasn't just me. It was all of us together. And Doug said it earlier in the show, we were a team. And when we roll into Jackson on September the 21st, we're rolling in. Everybody has the same goal. And the number one thing is with the fans that pay their hard-earned money, we want them to get a hell of a show, and I can promise you, and I'm sure Doug will too, that we'll do everything in our power to make this a night to remember.
Absolutely.
Hey, Randy, we want to thank you, myself and Gene both want to thank you for being on here with us today and promoting the Night to Remember, and I think it's going to be a great night. And have you got anything else, Randy, you want to say before we close this out?
I appreciate you guys. It's a lot of fun. Just if they go to MemphisWrestlingHallOfFame.com and get their ticket, I think it'll be a hot ticket. And I think that you need to, especially the VIP tickets, you need to pick up those up because you get into everything and you get front row. So looking forward to it. And Doug, we'll have no telling what's going to happen with all the cast of characters that's going to be in that building. Do you think I could hire you and Tommy as my security that night and Spellbinder maybe?
Hey, you sure can. You hired Tommy as your booker, your assistant booker, so I'm sure you could hire us as your security and maybe him as your assistant again.
Yeah.
The only bad thing about that, Gene, the only person Tommy fired about 3 or 4 people for Randy, then he fired his own self. So I ain't sure that was a good idea.
Oh yeah, that kind of backfired on me.
Yeah, but he didn't fire his own self for about a week though, or 2, I think it was. But anyway, hey, listen, Randy, thank you for being on here with us. And like I said, you're the first guest to be on Dangerous Conversations, and
I'm honored.
I guess I should let Gene told you that and everything. But anyway, me and Gene both sure appreciate you coming on here and talking about a night to remember with us.
We'll see everybody in Jackson. Gene, I hope you're coming with your podcast.
I'm going to be there. I've got a table. We're going to be promoting Doug's podcast, the USWA podcast. Man, there's so many people that I'm looking forward to seeing, people I'm getting a chance to meet for the very first time. And, me and Randy, we talked about this on the podcast I did with Randy a couple weeks ago. For the fans and the wrestlers alike, it's going to be like just a big family reunion at this thing, getting to see these people you've grown up with, you've known all these years. And I've heard it said multiple times, and I think both of you guys will agree to this. This is, in one way or another, this is probably the last and only time this particular group of people are going to be together all in one place. That's not being morbid, saying we're going to lose a bunch of people, but it's just the only gathering that's going to bring all these folks together for this reason. And that's just super cool. I can't wait. Yeah, to me, it's going to be like a big family reunion type deal. A family that you like to see, not one of them that you're made to go see and everything. But anyway, hey, like I said, Randy, we appreciate you being on here. And Gene, I appreciate you doing everything that you do for me. Randy, believe me, you and Gene are the smart 2 guys on here. I'm just on here by punching one button. But anyway, hey, like I tell everybody. Did
Melissa help you?
Help me? She does it all. I just sit here and talk and look at y'all.
She pushes the button.
Hey, no, actually, I can push the button and ride the Peloton, but everything else she does.
Okay.
But anyway, hey, listen, like I tell everybody, we appreciate y'all listening. Listen, peace. I'm out.
Hey, folks, before we get out of here, I just want to take a moment to remind you to check out DougGilbertPodcast.com. There you can find links to all things related to this podcast and to Doug himself. There are links to the Dangerous Conversation Facebook page where we post all sorts of great content regularly involving the Gilbert family. There's the Dangerous Conversations X/Twitter that we have. Plus, there's a link to the Dangerous Doug Gilbert Facebook and X pages where you can keep up with everything Doug has coming up, like shows, signings, conventions, you name it, and it's all going to be posted right there by Doug on his social media. He appreciates the support, and if you really want to show support, check out the Gilbert Family Pro Wrestling Tees store featuring a tremendous array of T-shirts featuring Doug, Eddie, and their father, Tommy Gilbert. And if you've enjoyed listening to this show, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on whatever your platform of choice is. It really helps us out, and it helps us build the podcast for the future. And if you want to see a plethora of matches, promos, and angles involving Doug and Eddie and Tommy, You can check out the Gilbert family playlist on our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/@retro-wrestling-archive. But that link is available at DougGilbertPodcast.com. And last but certainly not least, we are proud to be a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Going over to WrestleCopia.com and check out all of the great wrestling-related podcasts and content that our friend Ray Russell provides for you over there. You'll certainly be glad that you did.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That's linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, what do you do? Be good, be safe, and keep on growing.